At a news conference at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base.
The administration message is clear. Illegal immigrants will no longer be released into the country. They will no longer
Customs and Border Protection Acting Commissioner Mark Morgan said during the agency's 2020 fiscal year that ended in September, Border Patrol agents encountered 53% fewer people attempting to cross illegally than the previous year, when record numbers of families arrived mostly from Central America. The biggest dip came in April, when agents apprehended about 16,000 people at the U.S.-Mexico border. The previous month, days after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic, President Trump enacted Title 42, a public health directive he said would curb the potential spread of the disease from immigrants by giving the Border Patrol the ability to circumvent normal processing and return them to Mexico within hours of their arrest. Along the southwest border, the agency has carried out nearly 200,000 Title 42 expulsions. Critics accuse the Trump administration of using the pandemic as a red herring to deny immigrants due process, but the policy has the full support of Acting Commissioner Morgan.
It was CDC's public health order that actually directed us to do what we're doing under Title 42, because they said the further introduction of these individuals that illegally enter the United States further increases the risk of the spread of COVID. And so under Title 42, about 90% of those we're encountering, we are processing them at the border and returning them to Mexico within 2 hours. It's been a game changer, and in my opinion, has saved countless American lives.
Can individuals apply for asylum given that Title 42 remains in place?
So there's a key point to that. So right now, we are still meeting our refoulement obligations with respect to that. And I'll give you an example. So if a child comes across under TVPRA and we believe that that child is in fact being trafficked, they will not be amenable to Title 42. We will pull them out of that. But if they come here under the regular credible fear process, again, based on public health, no, we're going to return them right away and remove them.
Because the average time is roughly 2 hours when someone enters the country unauthorized, and then they meet with an agent and they're sent back. Who makes that determination on whether or not their asylum claim is credible?
It's going to be a combination of things, right? So the agent on the ground is going to make that in conjunction with appropriate supervisory staff that's going to make that decision. But keep in mind, what we're talking about is a global pandemic.
Overall declines in apprehensions have not hampered human smugglers. In the last fiscal year, CBP intercepted more than 270 tractor-trailers attempting to smuggle nearly 4,600 people, an annual increase of 36%. A lot of individuals, criticize the agency, saying they're just going right back into the system of the illicit trade on the south side of the border.
Now I understand. What I would say is their criticism is misplaced. Who they should be criticism is the disgusting cartels that are using the immigrants to align their pockets with money and just increase their power. I'll say one other thing quick that I've shifted on this. Before, I always went after the cartels and blamed them 100%. COVID, that's changed. I'm also blaming the illegal migrants themselves. They are knowingly and willingly allowing themselves to be placed in those stash houses, to be placed in those tractor trailers. And when they do that, they're exposing everybody that they come in contact with COVID-19. That's unacceptable and should stop.
Have there been actual data points that you could offer that indicate people who come across the border illegally have COVID?
Yes, so keep in mind, 90% of the individuals we're returning back to Mexico immediately, but we still have had a couple hundred people that have tested positive for COVID.
Flanked by leaders of CBP, Morgan told the press of the 60,000 agency personnel across the country, 2,300 had been infected with COVID and 13 died after contracting the virus. What percentage of those contracted the disease while in the capacity of their work?
So it's hard to do. We do the same kind of contact tracing that is outlined by the CDC. It's not always 100% to be able to define that, but we do our best. But remember, we've got about 43,000 badge-wearing gun toters in this agency. They can't telework it in. They've got to get up every morning, kiss their families goodbye, and they got to get out on the front lines and protect this country.
While the pandemic led to widespread closures and an economic slowdown, it did not get in the way of construction on a new wall system. Opponents, meanwhile, continue to challenge the project in court. Recently, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled the administration could not pay for it with funds diverted from the military. Any plans to stop wall construction here in the state of Arizona?
No. So that lawsuit is just one of countless lawsuits in our line. So right now we have a stay, so we haven't stopped building one single mile. We actually are building more miles per day, more miles per week than we did pre-COVID.
Where's the funding going to come from?
So it's good right now. It's still coming from a variety of sources. So both DHS appropriations and DoD funding. So the lawsuit you're referring to right now, we have a stay. So that has not stopped our construction efforts at all.
Outside of the courts and on the ground at construction sites.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Demonstrations led by indigenous groups over building on ancestral land have led to clashes with law enforcement. This week, the Arizona Department of Public Safety fired tear gas into a crowd blocking a Border Patrol checkpoint. A move condemned by Tohono O'odham Nation Chairman Ned Norris Jr., who also accuses the Trump administration of ignoring the nation's calls to halt construction and shutting it out of discussions. Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott refutes that claim and says the agency has a tribal liaison group that meets frequently with tribal leadership.
If you don't agree at the end of the day, that's just how things are going to go. But to say that we haven't had conversations, that we haven't worked together, I think is a little disingenuous.
Other concerns include the effects groundwater pumping could have on sensitive ecosystems, like the San Bernardino Wildlife Refuge in Cochise County and the Quito Baquito Springs in the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument.
And we're monitoring that on a daily basis to make sure that even that 5-mile cushion, if you will, or buffer zone, isn't negatively impacting it.
The CBP commissioner says many of the problems along the border could be fixed by congressional leaders.
As the economic conditions are worsening in Mexico and the entire Western Hemisphere due to COVID, get ready. We have to have the tools, like the wall, like technology, to be able to protect our home.